Yeah, something like that.
This is ready, yeah.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll count us down.
Are you going to hand me the mic each time, or?
You do you want it?
No, you tell me how you want to
Left
do it.
hand, Jeff.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Camera good?
Yeah.
Audio good?
Yeah.
All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm back for Dusty's ongoing coverage of IEM Cologne 2023. I'm here on the couch with Flom. Hi, Flom.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you? So, how are you, man?
Good. I mean, the event's been going pretty swell. Been enjoying it. It's huge. It's a lot bigger than Dallas, that's for sure.
A lot bigger than Dallas, indeed. And, with that in mind, I was talking to, Darth Mike last night, and we were kind of reflecting on, where various NA people have ended up over the last, 5-6 years. From Darth casting Tokyo and Tulsa, people like Maui and Laundry used to be players. And it's sort of in the same boat where you were. Once upon a time, you were just, a player coming up with, Luminosity, Winter Fox, all of that. And I wanted to sort of talk to you about that journey, ask you for the first question about that journey. How are you feeling right now, sort of at Cologne as sort of an invited, sponsor person to have gone on that whole journey from player to where you are now?
I mean, yeah, if you asked me, would I be doing this from 5 years ago? No, I wouldn't have guessed that, whatsoever. I didn't play on Winter Fox, though.
Oh. Chat, I blew it.
So, but I would just say in general, no, I mean, it feels incredible, right? To get flown out, hang out, get to see all my friends and get to experience this also, as the last event. It's pretty sick.
And, as part of that journey, you've been one of the, I would say, main casters, main streamers, main personalities who have stayed in, sort of in CSGO, in the ECL system. What keeps you sort of streaming CSGO where other casters have followed the zeitgeist to move on to things like PUBG, Apex Legends, Fortnite, all those other, titles?
I just like it, man. I just enjoy it. I mean, you play something else, it just doesn't really give you the same itch, or you watch, or whatever. It just doesn't fulfill or satisfy the same. I guess it just doesn't hit the same. I mean, really no better way to put it.
And, the same thing, there probably has been times where you've thought about just being a streamer, but you've continued to be a competitor in the ESL Challenger League and in all the in the qualifiers you play, even going so far as being one step away from playing in, the minors and the RMRs. Do you think you still have that competitive edge into you, or what draws you to continue playing where otherwise you might just be able to get away streaming FPL or Rank S or anything like that?
Well, even if I wasn't ever the best player, I always knew that I love competing. So as soon as I stepped away and I started, just focusing on the stream more, I knew that there would be a time where I'm watching an event, I'm watching a Cologne, and I'd be like, damn, I really want to go do that. But I know that I won't be happy if I do that. If I go down that road again, I'm just kind of it's just not for me. I know that, but you can get sucked back in. So Mythic was my way of, fulfilling that need to compete without wanting to dive all the way in again. It's my way of having my cake and eating it too, and I love my cake, as you can tell. So,
no comment.
But basically, that's kind of where it all started, and that's what drives me to compete. Is I've always loved competing. I mean, it's not even remotely close to my drive in competition and trying to be the best version of myself in Counter-Strike. I won't lie. I have not tried to be that person in probably 6 or 7 years when I stopped competing. However, it's a lot of fun still to scratch that itch, compete, and dive in, even if I'm not putting in my best effort. It's just nice to do. It's as messed up as it sounds, ECL is my adult league, where my men's league, where I get to my beer league of hockey. It's really good. Yeah, I like it.
And, talking about your beer league, I remember a couple years ago, I think it was during the height of the pandemic, when you mentioned, Mythic made it all the way to the finals of ECL, and I think you faced Chaos in those finals. And I think you put out a tweet, or you said something at stream at the time that was guys, I should not be going to the finals of the qualification league that takes us to the ESL Pro League. Looking back at those times and comparing it to now, do you think the league has improved in terms of the quality of teams? And do you think there's ever, is it a good thing that Mythic doesn't make finals anymore?
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean, I always say the saying is every time Mythic wins, NA is losing, right? Because we're a stream team, and this version of Mythic doesn't even practice. So we just show up for matches, and if we're competitive and we're making deep runs, that's a really not a good sign for the rest of the competition, I would say. That being said, we do have a lot of experience, and I do think there's an edge that we carry because of like how we are as a team. You know, not to take away from some of the up and comers that are trying their hardest. Like it's not to like be rude to them. We do have players that are experienced, and when you run into them, and there's also a lot of people watching, and you also know that there's no way to prep for us. You can't watch a demo of Mythic and know what the hell is going to go on because we don't know what we're doing until we're in the server. So, yeah, I think it's good that Mythic isn't making as big of runs. I personally would like to. The competitive side, it's always that tug of war. I think the level of ECL has gotten better in some ways, but also has actually kind of stagnated a bit. I think some players have gotten really good, but I also think those players that have really elevated themselves, not all, but some of them have essentially, I feel like maybe it's like, at first I thought it was because of competition itself, and then now I feel like maybe more I think some people have become a little complacent. Like it's stagnated a little bit, and I'm not sure why. Like I'm not sure if it's like the players or like because North America is just kind of hard to like break through. It could be either one, But I do feel like there's players that made strides, but nobody's really like breaking through to that next level. Like there's a really, really good players that I think it would be interesting to see them in Tier 1, but it doesn't feel like anybody's like exploding, like ready to just like make that jump to Tier 1.
And, you talk about sort of that complacency and that, stagnation that we see in the league. One of the most significant things that's happened in, I think, the last maybe 5-6 years is all the way dating back to when Bravado and Team 1 came over from South Africa and Brazil, is we've always had at least some foreign representation in the league, and especially Brazilian teams. We've now known that, the last two Brazilian teams, Pain and MIBR, have both, left for supposedly greener pastures. Looking towards the future, do you think that's going to make the league stronger or weaker?
Ooh, that's tough. I feel like those teams were very motivated and were always pushing, and they added a lot, but also I feel like they were 1 foot in, 1 foot out. A lot, when you think of the foreign competition before, they were in North American Counter-Strike. They were lately, right, a lot of the Brazilian teams or South American teams that were competing in NA, it kind of felt like they would boot camp in the EU, come back in NA. NA was just a place where they came back to collect their points rather than a place where they were really trying to get better or push things. They were just there because they had to be there is more what it felt like. And in that environment, I don't think that's healthy. It doesn't provide much value because it's not like everybody got to play against MIBR all the time. They would when they were here, but they were competing so much in EU, right? And that's not to knock on MIBR, but are we really losing much when a team is splitting so much time already? I would say probably not. When Kaboom first came to NA, and when some of these South American teams, Brazilian teams came to North America, they were all in on that, and that was because of North American Pro League, right? What everybody always talks about, and that facilitated the scene. That when everybody was here practicing as a group, from different parts of the world. It might have been the Aussies as well, right? When you have all those different regions competing against one another, and they're always there, always playing against each other, that builds the region. And that helped North American Counter-Strike a lot. It kind of hurt their other scenes as well, though, but overall I think it led to a much more... The Brazilian teams, I think, played a lot better then, too. When North American Pro League, that's what nobody ever really talked... when North American Pro League was around, I feel like the Brazilian teams were actually the ones that were benefiting the most because they were so driven and everybody was so invested in the scene, they benefited the most. And now they're half in, half out, and I think them going to EU will be better for both parties kind of thing. I think it'll give more North American teams more opportunity, and I also think for those teams where they were just coming back to NA to collect their points and shit like that.
Family show.
I just think it didn't really add much value.
Mm-hmm. With that in mind, as we're talking about this ESL Challenger League, we always talk about how we can make things better for the players and make things better for the teams, make things better for the scene holistically. But I think something that isn't really talked about a whole lot is how can we make it a better product for sponsors and make it a better product for even just for the viewers. Do you think right now ESL Challenger League is a compelling like entertainment product, and what's like something that they could do to make it more enjoyable and hopefully bring in those more viewership, more sponsors?
I mean, that's something I'm always looking at, right? As like what I do, what I've done with like Mythic League, all that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, obviously, when we started doing the Mythic Cups, nobody was doing them. I'm always thinking about like ways that'd be cool. I think the biggest thing right now for challengers, there's just no story. Like and it's everybody always looks to the players. It's like you should stream more, like you should, and they should do more. Like always, like everybody can. Honestly, you could go down the line even with Tier 1 Counter-Strike. Everybody could be doing more, right? Like it doesn't matter. I think the bigger issue is the overall structure. There's just not much compelling stuff going on. It feels convoluted. Nothing really hits. Like you can't tell somebody in one word how Challenger League works. I can't, right? And it changes all the time. How the hell are you supposed to understand what's going on in the scene if I can't even tell you how the qualification process is sometimes because it changes so much? So I think we struggle a lot because it's constantly changing. Every season, it has different names. It has a different qualification process. When the matches are, there's just no continuity across any of it. It's not connected at all. And I think that's why I really enjoyed the Cash Cup circuit. Like when I was working with ESEA, ESL, Face-It to promote that was like my main focus. And we still didn't really like completely get it. But, the idea of like whenever there wasn't a qualifier, there will always be a Cash Cup to play in. I'll be streaming it, right? The teams will be there. And then it's leading to something bigger, right? Like, and then it's easy to explain. Hey, Flom, what's going on with this? 60K playoff, 2-week boot camp in EU. Like, what does Challenger League do? Well, this season you see it might be a promotion league. You might go to a global qualifier. You might play in Malta. Maybe not this season because there's 2 seasons of Pro League. There's 3 seasons of Challenger. It just feels so confusing. Like how is a casual fan, how is anybody that, like if you're watching Tier 2 Counter-Strike, you're supposed to be invested. The rules change every goddamn month. Like, how are you supposed to know what the hell is going on and follow any of that? Everybody knows how many games in the NFL there are. They know when the hell the games are. They know exactly what to expect, when to expect it, and how it all works. We don't have that at all. That doesn't exist.
And so it's not really like a compelling competition right now. Like
I think the competition is fun. I think that's what makes Counter-Strike so awesome is like different levels of Counter-Strike are fun to watch for different reasons and in different ways. That being said, like if nobody knows what the end goal is, it doesn't hook you, right? Like when you come to Cologne, you see a big trophy come out, you know exactly what you're playing for. Challenger League, you don't always know exactly what you're playing for because every season it changes. Always a new rule, always new teams, always a new qualification process. It's really hard to follow.
I think, that's a great point as sort of an entertainment product. And looking, for your last question towards the entertainment side of Counter-Strike, a lot of people are excited about the release of Counter-Strike 2 and like what it might do sort of for CS as like a cultural product. And it makes me think back to, maybe the glory days, maybe the infamous days of when you'd have, rank S streams that would have tons of viewers, and then there'd be YouTube compilations, and there'd, be Mo screaming and, Steel arguing with him and all of that. Is there a way for us to sort of get back to those days when like rank S or FPL or whatever form it takes is something that's like so entertaining? And is that even a good thing? Should we try to get back to that?
I think it was really entertaining. I also think that, like, just being honest, there was a lot of stuff going on at that time where players had a lot more time to play Rank S. There was just a lot less commitment to a lot of different things where you could just sit down, play FPL for the night, Rank S. Now, that's not really the case. Like, these guys, one, we've done a terrible job of building up players, so when everybody's looking back for those same players because they don't know who the new people are, right? And that's a failure on multiple fronts, whether it's the individual players themselves, the scene not building up players whatsoever. It's doing better than most, but I would say overall it's not great. And I think trying to like capture something like, oh, it was so great back then, like it was, but also you have to recognize that the scene works entirely different now. Like people used to be in NA for Pro League, right, for like a month or two, every single year, twice a year. And now that's not the case at all. And you don't have, like, we finally are starting to get some competitions back in NA, but a big part also that people don't mention with those Rank S streams is Europeans coming over as well. That was always fun to see, like, your favorite North American players play against your European players as well. That just doesn't exist anymore because the scene just works differently. So is it bad that you want those things again? No. Like, are you going to get them again? No. And that's okay. Like, but you have to just, like, what's the bigger problem? Well, the bigger problem is everybody wants people like me or Mo or whoever. You just, everybody you named is 30 years old or older. Like, nobody knows the young players coming up, and that's the problem. Not necessarily because not that it wasn't good before, but yeah, I just think that people are holding on a little bit too hard, but don't realize that it's hard for the new guys because the scene is just kind of in such a weird spot.
And, with that in mind, with the scene being in such a hard spot, whether it, continues its slow decline or whether it continues to prosper, I think we know fl0m will be there always streaming ECL. And so with that in mind, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you, on stream probably a week from today, right?
Yeah. Sounds good, man. Thanks.
Twitch.tv/fl0m.
Yeah.
I hope it's fl0m, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.